The emergency session of the Interspecies Security Council convened in silence. That, in itself, was unusual. 17 species, each with their own tradition of procedural noise, the Velhari's harmonic murmuring, the Diaracheth's rhythmic mandible clicks, the Omian collective's constant low-frequency broadcast, and yet, every delegate sat in absolute stillness as High Marshal Zyrex Thorne pulled up the incident report on the central holodisplay. The report was 2 words long. Admiral Ethan Cross. Human. 3 weeks earlier, the Vrethkai Dominion had blockaded the Mira 9 trade corridor, a choke point responsible for roughly 40% of food shipments to 17 Outer Rim colony worlds. Their ultimatum was simple: pay tribute, or watch the colonies starve within 60 days. Standard galactic military doctrine called for a 6-month negotiation cycle, followed by a formal arbitration request, followed by a committee review. Conservative estimates placed a resolution somewhere around month 14. Admiral Ethan Cross had requested 48 hours. High Marshal Zyrex Thorne, Security Council Chamber. Admiral Cross, our combined fleet strength in Sector Bravo 7 is insufficient for a direct engagement. The Vrethkai have 43 capital ships holding that corridor. I must strongly advise against any aggressive action until reinforcements can be assembled. Admiral Ethan Cross, Secure Channel, Sole Defense Command. High Marshal, with respect, I don't need your fleet. Give me my team, 1 frigate, and 48 hours. And someone hold my beer. Zyrex Thorne had spent 63 years in galactic threat assessment. He had classified Caruvian swarm events, catalogued nulltide anomalies, and personally overseen the containment of the Burning Choir incident of 2801. He considered himself, and most of the galaxy agreed, to be unflappable. But when Admiral Cross said those 4 words, Zyrex felt something he had not felt in decades, a cold, irrational certainty that reality was about to be rearranged. He had been studying humans for 11 years. He knew what those words meant. They weren't a request. They were a warning. Incident reconstruction, 48-hour window. What followed was later reconstructed from sensor logs, Vrethkai survivor accounts, and a remarkably calm after-action report filed by Admiral Cross himself, written in a tone that suggested he had simply handled some minor administrative inconvenience. At hour 0, the single human frigate, the ISV Reckoning, entered Vrethkai sensor range and broadcast a standard diplomatic hail. The Vrethkai Dominion Fleet Commander, Admiral Aswaexvel, responded with predictable contempt. He pointed out, with some accuracy, that 1 frigate against 43 capital ships was not a negotiating position. It was, he said, a funeral arrangement. Admiral Aswaexvel, Vrethkai Dominion Flagship. You come alone, human. 1 vessel. Is this your Terran concept of a joke? We will grant you the mercy of a full minute to reverse course before we reduce your ship to component atoms. Admiral Ethan Cross, ISV Reckoning. I appreciate the minute. I only need 30 seconds. What Cross did not mention, and what Aswaexvel discovered too late, was that the Reckoning was not alone. It was simply the only ship using active sensors. The 12 Special Operations insertion pods, each running silent on cold propulsion, had been drifting in the debris field on the corridor's eastern edge for 9 hours. The human operatives inside them had been running on compressed rations, recycled air, and what one later described in his personal log as a deeply unreasonable amount of pre-mission optimism. At hour 1, Admiral Cross's Special Operations team breached the hull of the Vrethkai flagship simultaneously at 7 points. Not to destroy it, that would have been the easy part. Instead, they took the ship's command structure apart with the practiced efficiency of people who had rehearsed this exact scenario in a simulator 400 times and decided the simulator was probably being too generous to the enemy. Within 22 minutes, Admiral Aswaexvel was in restraints, the flagship's weapons were cold, and Ethan Cross was sitting in the commander's chair broadcasting a very calm message to the remaining 42 capital ships. Admiral Ethan Cross, Vrethkai Flagship Command Bridge. Attention Vrethkai Fleet. Your admiral is healthy, your crew is unharmed, and your flagship is now operating under new management. I'd like to have a conversation about the blockade. The corridor opens in the next hour, or I start demonstrating what a human special operations team can do with your own ship's reactor controls. I've been told I'm persuasive. Let's find out together. The corridor opened in 37 minutes. A new record. Council chamber, present day. High Marshal Zyrex Thorne set down the incident report and looked out at the assembled delegates. The Velhari ambassador had stopped murmuring. The Draketh hadn't clicked in 6 minutes. Even the Omian collective had gone quiet. The motion before the council, Zyrex said, his voice carrying the particular exhaustion of someone who had been correct about something deeply inconvenient, is to formally amend Galactic Standard Threat Protocol GTP-7 to include automatic threat level elevation to critical whenever a human officer, of any rank, utters the phrase "hold my beer," requests an unreasonably short operational window, or files a mission brief that includes the words "I have an idea" without further elaboration. The vote was unanimous. It was, notably, the first unanimous vote the Security Council had managed in 31 years. Admiral Ethan Cross was not present at the session. He had been dispatched on another mission. The brief he submitted read, in its entirety, "I have an idea. Give me 72 hours. Someone hold my beer." Zyrex Thorne had immediately elevated the threat level to critical. Not for the enemy. For everyone else. Addendum, filed by High Marshal Zyrex Thorne. In the 6 years since the Mira 9 corridor incident, the Galactic Threat Assessment Directorate has logged 47 separate operations attributed to Admiral Ethan Cross and his Special Operations units. Of those 47, 11 were considered by conventional military doctrine to be categorically impossible. 7 were described in the post-mission reports as probably fine, in retrospect. 3 had outcomes that the Directorate's analysts are still trying to model, because the mathematics of what occurred do not, strictly speaking, work. All 47 succeeded. The Directorate has since established an informal internal metric, colloquially known in the halls of the Security Council as the Cross Index. When any human officer requests an operational window shorter than one standard galactic week, uses the phrase "hold my beer" or any functional equivalent in any of the 340 registered Terran languages and dialects, or submits a mission plan containing fewer than 3 sentences, the Cross Index automatically flags the event for immediate escalation. Not because humans are reckless. Zyrex had spent enough time with them to know that was the wrong reading entirely. It was because humans operated from a framework the rest of the galaxy hadn't quite mapped yet, a particular combination of creative stubbornness, physical adaptability, and what could only be described as a species-wide refusal to let the odds have the final word. They looked at impossible the way other species looked at a locked door, as a puzzle, not a wall. Admiral Ethan Cross was not exceptional among his people. He was representative. That was what kept Zyrex Thorne awake at night, not with fear, but with something that, after considerable reflection, he identified as a deep and slightly terrified respect. High Marshal Zyrex Thorne, Personal Log, Stardate 2847.18. I have updated the threat classification system as the Council directed. I have added 17 new subcategories for human-initiated operational scenarios. I have also, on reflection, requested that my office be relocated to a floor without windows. When the humans say "hold my beer," I find it personally easier not to watch. Not because I doubt the outcome. Because witnessing it, every single time, makes me feel like I have fundamentally misunderstood the universe I have spent my life studying. They always win. And they always make it look like they expected to. The terrifying part is, I think they did. Somewhere across the galaxy, aboard a ship that wasn't on any official registry, Admiral Ethan Cross handed his coffee to his second-in-command, cracked his knuckles, and looked at a problem the galaxy considered unsolvable. He smiled the way humans smile when they already know how the story ends. "All right," he said. Hold my beer. E.